Hi, I'm Joy from Social Media Bomb, and today I want to talk about something that is going to ultimately lead to you having greater success in your life, in your work, in your business, but also to you having greater happiness overall. And that is about being in your zone of genius, working in your zone of genius. Now, this is obviously not a new concept, and it's something I didn't create, but it's something I'm reading about in this book called The Big Leap by Hendricks. So if you haven't read it, I really recommend getting a copy of it. But he talks about the zone of genius, and the thing that surprised me the most about this was that when we think about our zone of genius, we kind of think of it as being like a job that we could do, like my zone of genius is bookkeeping, or my zone of genius is marketing, or something like that. But in reality, he takes you through the process of working out what your zone of genius is, and it ends up being something very specific and more of a nuance in your personality, in your character, and something that you are very intuitively good at, that is your zone of genius. And if you can tap into what that is and then look at how that plays out in your life and in business and work, and then make sure that everything you choose to do works within that zone of genius, then that is when you're going to have true success in your life. So I want to very quickly read to you the 4 questions so that you can have a think about this, but I really recommend getting out and getting the book and reading the whole thing yourself. Okay, so genius question number 1. So this is the 4 questions that you ask yourself to work down through the layers to work out what your zone of genius is. And then I'm going to tell you what I worked out mine was. So genius question number 1 is, what do I most love to do? So I love it so much I can do it for long stretches of time without getting tired or bored. So what is the stuff that you love to do, whether or not it be work or at home or just in general? What is it that gives you great joy? So that's the first question to ask yourself. The second question is, what work do I do that doesn't seem like work? I can do it all day long without ever feeling tired or bored. So what is it that you do that doesn't feel like work? So something that you enjoy so much and you get so much satisfaction out of that it just doesn't seem like work at all. The third genius question is, in my work, what produces the highest ratio of abundance and satisfaction to amount of time spent? So you're looking at the ratio of how much time you're spending against something versus how much satisfaction you're going to get out of it. So what is it that you are doing in your job that gives you the greatest intensity of satisfaction and makes you really feel like you've nailed it and that you've done a good job that day? And then the 4th and final question is, what is my unique ability? He says there is a special skill that we're all gifted with. This unique ability, fully realized and put to work, can provide enormous benefits to you and any organization that you serve. So what is your unique ability? And once again, you might be tempted to think broadly about this, but he gives you examples of this, and it's often people have this unique ability to sense emotions or to feel energy movements within a room and to be able to run meetings really well because of that. They may be really good at, like he himself talks about how he's very good at helping people who are in conflict come to a resolution. My zone of genius, I worked out, is creating order out of chaos. So I'm very good at looking at something that is very messy, and sometimes it can be someone's story and they're telling it. I'm very good at piercing down through the fog of their story and finding the core of that and being able to show that to them. I'm very good at looking at chaos in something that's been done and then tidying it up into a nice system that works really well and might have tracking and things like that in it, so within business models. And as a dentist, I'm very good at looking at it as a patient overall and all of their issues in their mouths that might be overwhelming to some dentists, and I'm able to refine it down into a simple system of what we need to do and present that to a patient in such a way that I get a really high patient treatment acceptance. So that is my zone of genius, creating order out of chaos. And everyone has their own zone of genius. So you need to find out what it is. And once you tap into that, once you work out what it is, have a look at what you are doing in your business. Have a look at what you're doing in your job. Have a look at what you're doing in your life. And he says, only accept things that tap into that zone of genius. and say no to things that aren't. And by doing that, you're giving other people the permission to do the same thing. You're giving other people the permission to say no to things that seem really great, but for them are not their zone of genius. We're all going to be much more effective, much happier, more abundant, and more successful together. Okay, so go get this book, The Big Leap. Highly recommend it. And you go and have a fabulous week.